Hi, today I'm going to show you 5 more techniques to use with your Close to My Heart watercolors. If you haven't watched yet Series 1, please do so. In that series we show you some basic techniques, the wet on wet and the dry brush technique, as well as spray technique, ombre, and watercolor burst. Today you're going to learn about writing in words, color lifting, an emboss resist, painting stamped images, and using blocks to create painted images. So I hope you enjoy what we're going to do. All right, so for the words, I would recommend using a fine tip brush, obviously. The more control you have in creating a word, the better. And again, don't feel it needs to be perfect, because it can be quite hard and it can actually be something that's best practiced. So I'm going to start with a short word because it's a little bit easier than starting with something big. You can do cursive. I think that looks the nicest. And for this, I'm using a dry brush technique. So I'm not putting water on my page ahead of time. I'm going to use the page as dry and just pick up some paint right from the palette. So I'm using the finest tip brush I have, and I want to do the word love. And I'm just taking my time. If I need to go back, if I want to darken some of my color, I can, and fix some of my lines. But that didn't turn out too bad. So that's all it is. If you want to use watercolors to write words, it actually adds a really nice piece to your artwork. Just take your time, sample, practice, 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 and you'll get there. The next technique I want to show you is color lifting. So this one you will need to wet your surface ahead of time, and then pick up your color, whichever color that might be, and paint it on. Next, what you're going to want to do is have a Kleenex or a paper towel close at hand, and you're going to want to scrunch it up. Scrunch, scrunch, scrunch. And then you're just going to dab into the surface, and you'll see you kind of get a splotchy look to it. So when that dries, it's a little different look than the brushed look of an actual watercolor. So that is called color lifting. And you can experiment with different mediums. I used a Kleenex for this one. It's certainly a paper towel is going to give you a little bit of a different look. You can even use like plastic wrap and stuff like that. So experiment and have fun with that one. The next one I'm going to show you is using blocks to paint with your watercolors. So this is one of the Close to My Heart acrylic blocks. Usually you use them for stamping. It's not the cleanest, but since I'm about to paint it, that's okay. So I'm going to pick up some color, and I'm going to paint it on my block. So there, I got some color on my block, and you can do 2 different looks with this one. This one I'm going to sit down gently. I'm not going to apply a whole bunch of pressure, but I'm going to make sure it meets my paper, and then I'm going to peel it up. And you can see that one I didn't get much of a look at all. Let me try that one again. I think my paper is bumpy, and that's why. I am getting, there we go. Okay, so I press this one down a little bit more, and you kind of get a smushy effect. Now, if I did that again, and I applied more paint to my block, and I press this one all the way down with lots of pressure, you get a little bit of a different look. So again, something you can experiment with, but imagine a whole bunch of blocks built on top of each other in some artwork, and using that as a basis for a card or layout. You could actually have a lot of fun with that. Okay, this next technique is called Emboss Resist. And as you can see here, I have embossed a word, bravo. This is from our Crazy Good stamp set, which is a new one in our current catalog. And I've clear embossed that. So it is heat set and all ready to go. Now for this technique, you again can do a dry brush or you can do a wet brush. It's completely up to you. I want my color to be a little more intense, so I'm going to do a dry brush. So I'm just picking up some paint, and you go right across, and you can see where you've done your embossing, it resists picking up any of the color. So once this dries a little bit, you can go over it with a Kleenex just to get off any of the little bits of wet that stick to your word. They won't dry as well as the rest of it, and this dries pretty quickly. So lots of fun ways you can use that on cards and layouts. The last technique I want to show you is coloring in a stamped image. So this little hippo, adorable. This is one of my daughter's stamp sets. It's called Safari Ballet, and it features a little hippo and a giraffe in tutus. It's so adorable. You're going to want to use one of our more fine tip brushes for this one. And when you're coloring in, unless you want the colors to look really super watercolored, I would recommend a dry brush, and probably almost as dry as possible, because you're going to want more control if you want the color to stay in the lines. If you want it to be more like a watercolor, then you can work it however you want. You can wet it ahead of time and you'll get much more of that look. So I'm picking up a little bit of water. I'm going to get some gray for my hippo and simply going to color it in as best I can while videotaping. So you'll have to excuse it if it's a little messy. This is not one of my good brushes either. So this is a cheapy dollar store brush, and I can tell you, you want to make the investment and buy the good close to my heart brushes. The ones I do have, which I cannot find right now thanks to my children, work much better, and the bristles don't divide out as these dollar store bristles do. So I highly recommend getting the good stuff. So just coloring them in, you can switch colors, and you can, the joy of watercolor coloring is you can really go back and you can add highlighting however you want. It's not perfect, so you don't have to feel it needs to be perfect, but you get much more control. You can mix colors to create custom colors. One of the great aspects of our watercolors is the paint palette tray on the other side. So if I want to mix two shades to get a different shade, I can mix them over here and then use them in my project. So that's all you do. If I want to add more shading to my hippo on the one side, I can pick up more paint and I could work it in easy peasy. So that is another 5 techniques you've learned today. I hope you have lots of fun with your watercolors. And if you have yet to purchase any, make sure you visit braymontgomery.ctmh.com if you're in Canada and purchase some of our lovely watercolors, water piper, and paintbrushes. Visit brayer.com if you'd like more inspiration as well. Have a great day.